Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got a massive snow and ice storm causing significant, major, widespread impacts. I've got the full breakdown for you in this update. Welcome back everyone, how's it going? We got a lot of important information to go over, so let's get right to it. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you hadn't subscribed already. I do daily updates on this channel. So let's take a look at the overall jet stream, and it's very rare that we've got a potent Arctic air mass that's going to plunge all the way down into South Texas. And unfortunately, at the same time, we've got a surface low developing. It's going to cause a massive overrunning setup that's going to have a lot of rain on the south side. Then that's going to change over to freezing rain and then sleet and then heavy snow to the north for a good portion of the country throughout the week. Is just now getting going, but that's going to be dropping all the way down into central Texas and then swing across with a massive event with a lot of impacts that are on the table that you need to be made aware of. So let's go over all this hazard setup right now. So we've got the blizzard warnings that are still in effect for portions of the Dakotas at the beginning stages of this Arctic air mass with this heavy snow event. As this moves southward, we've got numerous widespread winter storm watches and winter storm warnings and all the way in place with winter weather advisories and portions of Colorado, getting into the panhandle of Texas. Very rare to see winter storm watches all the way into North Texas, into central Texas, covering the entire state of Oklahoma, portions of Arkansas, the entire state of Missouri, entire state of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Then it just swings up the coast, and this will just kind of fill in over time as this system gets closer. But yeah, we're talking a good chunk of the country is going to be impacted from this event from now all the way through Saturday time frame. So let's delve into the details. And to the north, we're talking about major impacts with that blizzard warning in place till about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So they're still experiencing some snow up there, but that storm is going to be winding down and everything's going to be shifting to the south. So as it does, we're going to have a strong Arctic air mass tap into that energy at the surface, causing that massive overrunning setup. So by the time we get into that Wednesday morning time frame, about 6 o'clock in the morning, we've got heavy rain forming on the south side. But as that Arctic air mass drops, it's a very shallow Arctic air mass, and unfortunately this has a very warm air aloft about 4,000 feet. So that's going to cause a significant freezing rain setup starting to originate in portions of central Missouri here. That's going to change over to some sleet. And then you got heavy snow breaking out into Colorado, into Kansas, into northern Missouri, into Illinois, going into southern parts of Michigan here. You can follow the graph down here below. The blue is your snow, your orange is your sleet, and your pink is your freezing rain. And down here in the left-hand corner, that is the green is your more light to moderate rain. Once you get into the yellow shaded area, that's your little bit heavier rain. But yeah, there's going to be a good chunk of the country that's going to be experiencing a good soaking with this event, but unfortunately a lot of that is going to be in the form of freezing rain. So as this continues to press southward, as that Arctic air mass continues to plunge into portions of Oklahoma, now we're getting into the Texas panhandle. We're going to start getting into changeover where we got rain on the south side breaking out in West Texas. This is about 3 o'clock on Wednesday. We're going to have some ice starting to break out in West Texas. Northern parts of the panhandle will be all snow, and then you're going to be all snow and very heavy snow for an extended period of time into central Illinois and northern Indiana and southern Michigan, as we got a good swath of heavy snow dropping over a good chunk of the day on Wednesday. So as we continue to move southward, as we get into that midnight time frame, and that's when the winter storm watch starts at gets kind of really dicey and say places like in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where they're going to have a changeover. See all the heavier rain to the south side. So you're going to get like 1 to 2 inches of rain ahead of this event. And then as the temperatures drop, all that rain is just going to transfer over to freezing rain. And you could literally have freezing rain, say in places like Dallas, for like 6 to 9 hours, guys. This is a significant setup with all this being the form of freezing rain, and then it changes over to sleet, and then you got snow into the north side, into Oklahoma City, going into central Missouri. Then you got all that rain on the south side as this continues to press southward. So we're talking about moderate impacts in places like Cheyenne, going into Denver, places into Santa Fe, into Albuquerque, pretty much the entire state of Kansas here, Oklahoma City into Tulsa. You start getting to Dallas, more moderate impacts, a little bit lesser impacts as far as in portions of Amarillo with this graph on the right hand corner of the screen. So as we continue the time frame into Thursday, that's where it starts getting really ugly, and a good chunk of Texas where we got heavier rain to the south side into Houston, into Louisiana, into southern Arkansas, into northern Mississippi. But as that cold front continues to press, I mean, you're already in 6 hours of sleet, and that sleet and freezing rain just continues, and it presses as far south as Austin. I think it gets as far south as San Antonio. It goes into portions of East Texas, and then we got a heavier swath of moderate to heavy snow breaking out in West Texas and then Northwest Texas as we get into that 6 a.m. time frame on Thursday. And then that heavier snow just continues to press southward as it will eventually encompass getting into portions of Arkansas here. And then look at the temperatures. I mean, we've got rain falling and temperatures of near 20 degrees, guys. That is solid ice, and that's a very rare setup to see temperatures at 20 degrees and raining. But unfortunately, that is going to be what's on the table with such a warm air aloft, and you got a deep, shallow air mass with this type of setup. So you got widespread 20s. So a lot of this is going to be forming in the form of freezing rain into Texas. And the longer the freezing rain happens, the more significant travel and power outages and more ice that will accumulate on everything and all the surfaces, power lines, trees. So we're talking huge impacts for portions of North Texas. You know, as we get into Arkansas, again, a lot of impacts from this particular setup with these temperatures so low, and we've got rain falling, and where all the layers of the atmosphere are able to cool by that time, it's all going to be forming on snow on the backside of the system as this moves out. So yes, as we even get into the Thursday afternoon time frame about 3 o'clock, we're still dealing with portions of sleet and portions of North Texas that'll eventually get into eastern Texas. All this will be in the form of snow on the backside, getting into snow, having a changeover into Dallas, and all this will be in West Texas with snow, and then all this would be snow into Oklahoma, getting into Arkansas and Missouri and southern Illinois and Indiana with the heavier snow swath as this continues to press across. But so we're talking pretty much the entire metroplex of Dallas having moderate impacts from this particular setup. So like I mentioned, the faster this thing is moving, and it's a shallow air mass, this has progressively shifted a tad bit further southeast as we have new data coming in. So that's usually pretty, what's kind of expected with these particular air masses, because the air masses just so shallow. These models aren't able to pick up on the true depiction of this Arctic air. And I think this is actually even going to be colder than what a lot of models actually say at the moment right now. So that's why we could have significant impacts. And the faster this thing moves, basically the less freezing rain you get and the more snow you're going to be able to get on the backside. So and the more snow you're able to get is, you get more snow, the longer you're going to be staying with those below freezing temperatures for a longer period of time, because you'll have that snowpack on the ground. So yes, I know a lot of people want snow, but then you're going to have to deal with the residual effects of that. With that snowpack on the ground, it could take days for it to melt, with an extended period for that cold to follow even after the precipitation ends. So as we move into that, Thursday midnight time frame, that heavier rain continues to press off into the southeast. Now we're shifting off the East Coast. So this continues to press and impact a good chunk of real estate in the U.S. this week. Now we're talking about all that freezing rain getting into Kentucky, inundating West Virginia, going into southern Pennsylvania, getting into northern Jersey, all the way back into where they dealt with that nor'easter last weekend. We got a freezing rain to set up in the beginning, but then eventually it'll change over to snow. But it'll be all snow on the north side into northern PA, all of upstate New York, into Vermont and New Hampshire, going into Maine again. And that's about the midnight time frame on Thursday. And then as we transition into that Friday noon time frame, that freezing rain setup continues to press southward as that Arctic air continues to press south. Now we're talking all the freezing rain is going to be set up over Delaware, over southern Jersey, getting into Long Island. All this is going to be in the sleet and in portions of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, along the Cape there, and then all snow to the north of that. And as we continue to press, it'll change over to all snow, right? So everybody gets the initial setup of the rain, then you get the freezing rain, and then you get the sleet, and then you got snow on the backside as this all ends and moves out. So let's look at some of these ice totals. So I think the GFS really picks up in these air masses, really kind of the best in this setup. Here's the short range measure scale guidance of the NAM model. But again, the longer this area freezing rain stays over, the more significant impacts you're going to have from just power outages and all that ice just covering everything with those temperatures in the 20s. That's plenty cold enough to not melt, right? So all this is going to be a good swath of at least, good chunk of at least of a tenth of an inch. Anything over an eighth of an inch, it causes significant delays in travel. It's going to be next to almost impossible to travel in a lot of these areas from central Texas into North Texas. It starts getting really dangerous as that freezing rain starts to set up over an extended period of time, potentially up to 6 to 9 hours. There are spots in Dallas could be picking up a 1/4 inch, if not almost a 1/2 inch of ice. Like I mentioned, the longer this stays as freezing rain, the more significant outages you're going to have on power outages. And then it just extends all the way through Arkansas and to western Tennessee, through Kentucky, with a good swath of a lot of ice falling. And then you just have the sleet too. So we're talking central Texas to North Texas to Oklahoma to Missouri to Arkansas to western Tennessee to Kentucky to Illinois. That's where they have these extreme impacts. A good swath of at least a half inch of sleet. But yes, there's sporadic amounts in there that could pick up at least 1 to possibly 2 inch, if not more, sleet. So you're talking, good chunk of freezing rain and then sleet, and then you got snow on the backside. So the faster this thing is going to be able to travel, the less freezing rain you're going to get, the less sleet you're going to get, and then the more snow you're going to get. So this has shifted just a tad bit, slight shift further southeast with every single update. So now that's when they included into the winter storm watch yesterday in Dallas upwards to possibly 2 inches, where just yesterday they hardly had just a dusting in Dallas Fort Worth. So you can see the progression of this cold air mass, but a good swath of 4 to 6 inches inundating Colorado, into New Mexico, into the portions of the Panhandle, into central Texas, into West Texas, into northwest of the Metroplex, into Oklahoma. And then once you get back into Missouri, into Illinois, into Indiana and Ohio, then you're going to be picking up those 8 to 12 inch amounts, and if not upwards to a foot if not more, in isolated amounts in and around Indiana, where you've been desperate for snow, and it's all going to end in a big way with at least a foot of snow with this particular setup as this is moving across. But as we move to the east, that just continues to impact these parts in the east with some heavy freezing rain and good chunk of Kentucky going into West Virginia, into southern PA, into Virginia here, going into Delaware, into New Jersey, into Long Island. So all this will be freezing rain moving across. And then, of course, you have the sleet too. So a good swath of at least a ½ inch in this whole area into this and shaded into the orange. And then you got another swath in the middle that you could be picking up more significant amounts with heavy sleet. And then you got the snow. So these totals are, yeah, pretty impressive, especially after you just got inundated from that just nor'easter just last weekend. So back-to-back storms potentially as this moves across with a good swath of a foot of snow. You got winter storm watches already in place. So northern PA, all of New York getting it's upwards to 8 to 12 inches of snow. You got Connecticut, you got Massachusetts picking up parts of another foot of snow into Vermont and New Hampshire, back into southern Maine here, as this will continue inundating the portions of Rhode Island as well. So that's just half the story. But yeah, like I mentioned, the more snow you're able to get, it's going to help insulate the ground even further. So even by Saturday, you could have several days of below freezing temperatures. So whatever falls on the ground on Thursday, even though the precipitation will move out in a good chunk of Texas, that's not melting, guys. That's not melting for several days, as that Arctic air will continue to plunge. And the more snow you're going to have on the ground, the more extended time you're going to be below freezing. So even by that Saturday morning time frame, these are actual low temperatures, and all the areas in green here, that's below zero, guys. So you're talking a good chunk of Texas into single digits. Here in the purple, getting into portions of Dallas, and then where the snow falls, all the areas where the snow falls and has a more insulated pack, you're going to be in the single digits by the time you get into Saturday morning for Oklahoma and a good chunk of portions of Arkansas, and then even below zero as you get into northern Missouri, into Illinois and Indiana and Ohio, with all those heavier, have that heavier snowpack. You're going to be below zero for on Saturday. And look at the feels like. I mean, these are below zero feels like temperatures all the way inundating central Texas and North Texas for a good swath of where that snow is going to fall. It's going to feel brutal conditions and upwards to maybe possibly as low as 10 below zero at times as you get into, feels like, into Dallas on Saturday morning. But there's your rain. So look what we have to work with all that heavier precipitation falling into Arctic air. So you got a lot of this is going to be in the rain on the south side, but a good chunk of this is going to change over to that freezing rain, to the sleet, and then you got that snow swath. And some of this was going to be in the form of rain pushing back off the Pacific Northwest. But even after you get into the temperatures for the rest of the week, this is your temperature anomalies for the first week of February. And there, I mean, look, this is well below average for this time of year, where all that snow and ice is going to fall, and these temperatures really just don't go anywhere. So you could have several days of below freezing temperatures, and even when you warm up to above freezing, you're still going to be below average for a good chunk of Texas, into Missouri, into the Ohio Valley, and even the following week, you're still going to be cold for all these areas in Texas and to the southeast, and for the Ohio Valley, where they've got that Arctic air mass, and that colder air just continues to stay entrenched in that area. But then you'll start warming up into the Pacific Northwest and our western areas. So, hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely like this video and share with your friends on social media to let them know of things to come, because this is really going to impact a good portion of the country Appreciate you guys watching. Hit the subscribe button if you hadn't already, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after storm.